Hello to everyone on the Zoom call and all of those watching live on Facebook. Before we start, a kind reminder to keep microphones off so there's no background noises, and so everyone is aware this event is being recorded and the live stream will remain on the Šilainių Sodai Facebook page. So welcome everyone to the online forum Taking Action on Climate, Urban Gardening and Composting in the City. A special thanks to the Nordic Council of Ministers for making this event possible, as well as event partners Kaunas Fortress Park and Vytautas Magnus University, Department of Environmental Science. I am so excited to have this topic being brought to the forefront. There is so much opportunity here, and it's great to see that this topic is picking up speed. Conferences like this one are a great place to meet and network, so let's do so. While we are waiting for people to join, please write in the Zoom chat where you are joining from, and if you are representing an organization, please feel free to also mention that. Maybe you can find people to connect with here today. Even if we are doing this online, it's not an obstacle for real connection, I think. And you never know what a new connection may bring. I will start also. My name is Auste. I will be your host this morning for this event. And I'm the co-founder of social gardening initiative Hul Ūkis here in Lithuania, which connects people who want to garden and grow their own food and people who want to share their land with these people. I'm also working at the Social Enterprise Association in Lithuania, and it's always great to see more environmental social enterprises being started here and also in other countries. We do want this event to be quite interactive, so please do participate, ask questions. If you are in Zoom, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we will have time after presentations to answer some questions. After the presentations, you can also ask directly if you wish to do so. If you are watching on Facebook, please feel free to write your questions as soon as they come up, because there sometimes is a little bit of a delay, so we can make sure to answer your questions if there are a lot, because we do have quite a tight schedule today, and we don't manage to answer your questions during the Q&A. Feel free to still write your comments. Hopefully the speakers can then just write in the chat and answer your question. Wonderful. So because we are quite short on time today, without further ado, I would like to invite Evelina Šimkutė, the organizer of this forum, to say a few welcoming words. Evelina?
Good morning, everybody. I'm a leader of Šilainių Project, a creative initiative in Lithuanian city of Kaunas. And for the past 5 years, I've been working with local communities and international artists and professionals of various different fields, trying to learn about the neighborhood where we live and learn in a variety of different perspectives and reimagine it in a new creative ways. And for the past few years, together with a great team, we've been focusing on the green spaces in the city. And today, for the very first time, actually, we'll be talking about climate change. And I'm really thrilled to have some incredible, inspiring speakers with us in the forum today. And I'm really, really grateful for their time, for being here. And for the first part of the forum, we'll hear Kaunas City Cross-Sectorial Partnership case that is being presented live for the very first time. And these are the organizations that are taking first steps in the collaboration towards cleaner environment and more sustainable city. And then we'll go into inspiring speakers from Estonia, Finland, and Norway, sharing their work and expertise. So please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions, ideas for collaboration, or feedback about this event, which I would very much appreciate. My contacts are on Facebook event and all the emails that you have received about the forum. And I hope you enjoy this morning and plant some seeds for change, because, well, it is spring after all. So have a really lovely morning wherever you are.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Evelina. Really great that you have brought us all here today. Thank you so much for such a great event. And now we would like to play a short video of the Nordic Council of Ministers, and after which I would like to invite Helen Nilsson, the Director of Nordic Council of Ministers Office in Lithuania, to say a few words. So please, can we play the video now?
I'm Helen, and I am the Director of the Nordic Council of Ministers Office in Lithuania, and I have been here for about 3.5 years. I have been working in the field of international cooperation for many years, and I'm glad to be here just now and to follow the mandate of the Nordic Council of Ministers. The office was opened in 1991 after the events in January, and it was very important for us to react and support Lithuania in an early stage and its independence. The office became the bonding connection between the Lithuania and the Nordic countries, and I think that was for us truly amazing to see this establishment. Together with trustful partners, we have done so much. With help of the office, people of Lithuania work in art, education, research. The public sectors could reach the Nordic world, meet colleagues and learn from colleagues across the Baltic Sea. We also appreciate all the good partnerships in Lithuania and in the Nordic countries. We have shown in the Nordic region that if you do it together, you do it better and you receive better results. We have peace, we have democracy, we have people who feel responsibility and ask to take responsibility. We are allowed to be part of the development. We also are in societies that can cope with events or bigger challenges. Our vision is to make the Nordic-Baltic cooperation even stronger. And we really believe in our vision to be the most sustainable and integrated region by 2030 in the world, as well as the best place for children and youth. And we would like to do that together because we think that we are stronger together.
Oh wow, what an inspirational video. Thank you so much for sharing. And I would like to welcome Helen Nilsson, Director of Nordic Council of Ministers Office in Lithuania, to say a few opening words herself.
Thank you, Asta. That was actually the first time we used that video, and I have to say it's very strange to see yourself, but I hope the message is clear. We would like to do things together to get an even better region. But we are also very happy and proud to support the project, the climate change awareness in Lithuania, Estonia, and Finland from our support program for NGO cooperation. And indeed, you will talk and discuss about very interesting topics today. I myself tried to convince our landlord to change our parking spot in the inner yard to a garden, although up till now, no success, but we will not give up. And maybe we will ask your advice. The basis for Nordic Council of Ministers' work in Lithuania is the Nordic Vision 2030 that was mentioned in the video, which aims to make the Nordic countries the most sustainable and integrated region in the world promoting the ideas of a green, competitive and socially sustainable region and the best place for children and youth. This project may seem small, but it is a concrete step in the right direction and totally in line with our aims and vision. As written in our ongoing Finnish Nordic Council of Ministers presidency program for 2021, the Nordic countries will only be successful in becoming a driving force for peace, sustainable development and welfare for all if we do it together, developing international cooperation in an even closer partnership with the Baltic countries. Please also allow me to mention some other ongoing Nordic-Lithuanian projects in the field of environment for a green region. Youth Action for Sustainable Development. This project is linked to the Klaipėda European Youth Capital 2021. Climate-friendly community projects just started the other day, focus on grassroots movements and community actions. Another project that started also on the 1st of March is Let's Not Waste Food project, focus on young consumer behavior change and food waste. BioBio is a project focusing on bridging bioeconomy and youth in the region. And the last one I would like to mention here is a Nordic-Baltic project on pictogram based on a Danish waste sorting system. But urban gardening and composting in the city are important, has a big potential in our region. The Nordic Council of Ministers office in the Baltic states, as you heard, celebrate 30 years. And in Lithuania, we have developed a package for that. We call it Stronger, or Together We Are Stronger, consisting of 5 pillars, highlighting good cooperation, but also inviting old and new partners for future collaboration, raise awareness about climate change, and also raise awareness about the Nordics. And the 5th pillar is a greener office. And let me just briefly mention a little bit more about the 5th pillar, a greener office. We have already a green strategy for our office, but now thanks to good cooperation with the NGO Planet Positive, we will soon have our carbon footprint calculation results and decide on more good actions to become planet positive and take action to reduce our impact on the environment, including better composting and how to offset our emission supporting local projects. I mentioned in the beginning that this event is funded by our support program for NGO cooperation between Nordic and Baltic countries. I can just end my speech by saying that our next application round opens very soon on the 15th of March with a deadline of 1st of May. So if you have any good ideas, be ready and apply. And we very much looking forward getting good project ideas in the field of sustainable solution for the better and good environment and climate. And I also would like to say thank you to all the partners in this project and good luck today during the seminar. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Helen, for your words, for sharing such great initiatives and the support for all of these amazing ideas that you give, also for setting such a good example through the actions that you do with your organization yourself. I think it's wonderful and we're moving in the right direction. So thank you so much. Next, I would like to invite Aistė Gedvilienė, Member of Parliament of the Republic of Lithuania, Chair of the Environmental Protection Committee, to say a few opening words.
So hello, I have a lot of what to say, and I have prepared a long speech, but I will try to be short. But I think there are a lot of things I need to say. So I try to be short, but sorry, I have my speech, so I'm gonna read it. So at first, I would like to say that Lithuania is country rich in nature. A large part of its territory is covered by forest and water bodies. The land abounds in freshwater resources. Historically, Lithuanians have long lived with harmony with nature and valued greenness. Collectivization, industrial development, expensive draining, and use of chemical fertilizers in the less ancient past have unbalanced the ecosystem. Fertilizers and park protection products not only allowed yields to soil, but also increased pollution by heavy metal compounds, military oil refining, metal and energy industries, low quality car fuels, and industrial accidents known as historical pollution left sore wounds in our environment. After the country regained its independence and acceded the EU, the approach of nature conservation and rational use of natural resources has changed dramatically. In recent years, the ecological system of waters has improved, forest degradation has been halted, and reducing air pollution has been prevailing concern. New activities such as urban horticulture and composting are activities of future, and they need development and investments. The current government program pays considerable attention to sustainability, the development of cities and their increased functionality. The program includes the provision that will encourage rational and local food system based on shortened food chains. Urban horticulture is in line with this goal of the government, as it allows residents to grow their own food products in the places of their homes in urban areas. The government program also talks about a sustainable food product system and production and consumption of healthy, sustainable foods, while at the same time reducing the environment footprint associated with their production. Soil, which we also prize a lot, requires more attention still. Its balanced use is crucial. Organic material and humus that stimulate soil formation are needed. The need of adopt a dedicated law on soil of purity under discussion at SEMES and our government. Self-cleaning potential of nature is limited and needs our help. Important work can be done in many areas of communities and public activists who are already active in preventing pollution, making and protecting the environment, as well as assigning, improving environmental quality through the use of universally available biological methods. I'm glad that during the Šilainiai Urban Garden project, you cooperate with the scientists from Vytautas Magnus University who changed out soil assessment. Sometimes that the treatment of the soil and groundwater containment with hazardous substances requires high cost and expert strength to clean up the areas. We have such experts in Lithuania. However, plants that are able to promote self-remediant of soil can also be used for the purpose. The botanical gardens of Vilnius and Kaunas even have dedicated areas for exhibition such plants. I think you will be able to use this experience in your projects as well. And for the ending, I would like to say that I'm myself from Šilainiai. My parents still live in Šilainiai district, so I'm really proud that you are making such a good ideas exactly in Kaunas and Šilainiai. And for the ending, I would like to say thank you for our partners. And I hope this forum will be very fruitful and interesting for all participants. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear that these issues are being brought to the surface and that our government is also taking these subjects seriously and taking measures to promote this area. Thank you so much, Aiste. And let's get into the main presentations of this forum. So having studied environmental science myself, I'm really looking forward to now hearing the next presentation, which will be from Jūratė Žaltauskaitė, Associate Professor at Vytautas Magnus University, the Department of Environmental Science. And she will be presenting a presentation on the topic that scientists and local communities collaborating for change and the pilot study that they ran in Kaunas Fortress. As Evelina said, I believe this is the first time these results are going to be presented to the public, so it's very exciting to find out what they will be. So I invite you now, Jūratė Žaltauskaitė, if you could share your screen and proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Auste. Hello, everybody. Today I will present our do you see me and hear my presentation?
Yes, we can see it, but you can make it a full screen.
Okay, I will try. Okay, now it works?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for the invitation for this event. I'm very glad here to present our first results from collaboration on a scientific manner because we are interested how environment could be impacted by the activities which are held in the Fortress of Kaunas and other sites in Kaunas, and maybe how can local communities contribute to some mitigation of adverse effects and to minimize the risk which could be posed to both to environment and human health. So today I will present our results on our first pilot study in Kaunas Fortress. We started collaboration maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and now we have our first results. Okay, so talking about nowadays situation, society, we are facing several challenges. First of all, we have very rapid urbanization, and during the 20th century, the urban population in Europe, it has been increased by more than 100%. And the same situation is in Lithuania. So we must focus on urban environment and citizens' impact on urban environment and how to ameliorate it. The second challenge is pollution. Talking about pollution here, we have very broad range of various pollutants generated by human activity. But you know that first of all, nowadays we talk on the number one, our problem number one is climate change. So greenhouse gases and their increase and their impact on environment. So we have very dramatic increase in greenhouse gases, especially in CO2, from the second half of the 20th century, and now this increase in the 21st century is also very high. So this leads to an unprecedented rate of changes in temperature, in precipitation, and the impact on environment, urban as well. So we have to think about it and how it could impact our cultural heritage. Talking about the whole society of our world, so even the, the list of global risks, environmental threats, we were listed in the top 10 in both terms, in terms of impact and of terms of likelihood to impact our lives and environmental quality. The same is on cultural heritage, because cultural heritage sector is very vulnerable to environmental changes, to human activity, and our activities, behavior, it might change the impact and it might change a situation as well. So if we look at the most reported impact categories at the World Heritage Sites for several decades, so we clearly see that pollution and climate change, together with severe weather events, especially acute severe weather events, they are listed also in the top 10, and almost from 10 to 20% of all World Heritage Sites, we have been impacted and we have been facing some problems coming from pollution and climate change. What kind of problems we have in these two categories, pollution and climate change? If we talk about the pollution, we have to think about these categories of impact. First of all, solid waste. In the sites of cultural heritage, we can see some littering, industrial waste, household waste, which can be found in these sites and maybe produce some leachate, or we can expect some leaching of toxic chemicals, etc. The second point is surface water pollution. So we might expect some changes, for example, in acidity, alkalinity, composition, etc. Air pollution. Air pollution, it might have direct and indirect effect on cultural heritage, both of, if we talk about the whole site and if we talk about the buildings which are in cultural heritage sites. One problem, especially in urban areas, is coming from the excess of energy, because we have urban lightings, we have heat pollution from urban sites. Yeah, we know we have some heat islands in cities. And so this increase in temperature and increase in lightnings, both during the nights, for example, it might influence the vulnerability and sensitivity both of buildings and sites, which has enormous, for example, biological diversity. Almost we have to think about groundwater pollution, and if we have the sites near seas or oceans, so we have to think about marine waters, which can come, which can flood, for example, our cultural heritage sites, and afterwards we have some salts which can be left, and afterwards we can deteriorate our buildings and we can lose our heritage. In terms of climate change and severe weather events, the most important risks are coming from storms, and you know that severity and intensity is increasing with climate change. We can clearly see this trend in Europe and, for example, in US. Floods and droughts, because we have very severe droughts, and after that we have a very high precipitation amount, which leads to severe floods. And some cultural heritage sites with buildings, we can be over flooded and destroyed. We have temperature change. So temperature change, it can lead to higher biomass growth. It can change the cycles of freezing, the cycles of thaws, and we can disturb our concrete, our masonry buildings, especially if we have the old ones. Desertification, because arid areas, we are increasing, and this problem is coming along with salinity problem, because climate change, it will lead to increased salinity of soils. And near seas and oceans, we have to think about the problems coming from saline water. If we overflood our sites, what is the temperature of the water, what is the pH of the water, and what kind of outcomes we can expect from these overflooding periods. So the management of cultural heritage, it requires an innovative approach if we want to integrate the principles of sustainability into the processes. Always we must address sustainable development goals. So cultural heritage, it should not be regarded as only an object of conservation and preservation or restoration. It can be regarded as an incentive for sustainable development. And this is listed in the Faro Convention dedicated to cultural heritage protection and restoration. So here we have a challenge, how to integrate and balance the environmental, economic, and social aspects in the cultural heritage management. So we have to manage our cultural heritage in a sustainable way. And here we have a term, sustainable cultural heritage management as well. And how local communities they can contribute. In my opinion, that local communities, citizens, and NGOs, we are highly encouraged to participate in cultural heritage management, reuse, new adaptation. And we clearly see it in recent decades. Now it's we have quite a lot of different initiatives coming from the local communities, and they contribute to sustainable management of cultural sites. So over recent decades, local communities, they have become increasingly aware of the need to preserve and to conserve the cultural heritage, to prevent cultural heritage degradation, to adapt it, reuse, and most important, to reuse it under sustainable way, and to find new contemporary applications, how we can reuse in different manner these sites, how we can adapt them, and how it can contribute to our sustainable development goals. So across the whole European Union and in Lithuania as well, we have numerous examples of successful local communities' involvement in cultural heritage sites, how these sites we are reused and preserved. So in Kaunas as well, we see we have Šilainių sodai, we have a strong community in Šančių bendruomenė. Yes, you know how these people, we are initiatives and how we contribute to the use of our not only cultural heritage sites, but brownfields as well in urban territories. So I think if we have authorities plus communities and scientists, so we must get quite efficient synergy. And our goal is to get this synergy if we collaborate and join our initiatives from all these sectors. So now I will move to our results. So what we did during the last year, and if we talk about Kaunas Fortress, is very complex site. Yeah, we have several forts. We are distributed in different districts of Kaunas. Some of them are in residential area, some of them are in green areas. Other key point in Kaunas Fortress that here we have complex of greeneries and buildings. So we have to think not only one thing, but we have to think about how to integrate and how to solve all the problems in a complex manner. So we have to think about greeneries, water bodies, buildings, and old buildings and new buildings, and how to reuse them or adapt them to our nowadays needs and for future generations. So we did pilot study in 2020. First of all, it was site observation. And during this site observation, we determined our key problems, which we have in Kaunas Fortress. Afterwards, we decided to start to analyze a real situation. So we sampled water and soil samples, and we did some pilot analysis. So today I will present only our first results from our analysis because it's not finished yet. And later we will get a broader picture of a real situation, what we have with environmental quality. So from observations, what we have seen that we can classify our problems in Kaunas Fortress in several groups. First of all, we have impact of environment, molds, buildings deterioration, salts, because we have bad quality old buildings, not protected buildings. This issue is really important nowadays because we have very high rate of temperature increase and climate change. Second problem is waste. In Kaunas Fortress, you may find various types of waste, from tires to household rubbish, green waste. So we must clean these areas, and some of these waste, like bio waste, we can compost, for example, and we can even get the profit from them to improve soil quality, etc. The third problem is water pollution. So we saw that sometimes we do not know what is it. Some pipes were coming from the soil, and nobody knows for whom they belong to. So we must to investigate and to make deeper analysis with water pollution, where it's coming from. A really big problem is behavior of visitors. Okay, we are happy when we have visitors, but sometimes if we are not very good people, we are lefting something from their activities in these sites. So you see in our photos made in Fortress that we can have some bottles left, rubbish, plastics, etc. And these visitors were not very efficient to mitigate the impact and to protect this site from other forcings. And the last point is biodiversity, because in these areas in Kaunas Fortress, because of high percentage of greeneries, we can also find some invasive species, alien species. So we might pose some risk to other species. But talking about biodiversity, at the same point, we have to think that these areas is like a spot where we can find numerous species in urban territory, which are usually not found in urban areas. So Fortress is like a receptor, is like a source of these species. So we must protect these areas in terms of biodiversity protection. Okay, and our last results on quality soil of water. So we sampled in Kaunas Fortress, fort number 8 in Šilainiai. And we sampled soil and water. And now we have only the data on nutrients, only on phosphorus, and we will continue with nitrogen afterwards. And we analyzed heavy metals because we think about the previous activity, which was held in Fortress sites because of military activity. So we think that due to this activity, we might expect some pollution with heavy metals. And moreover, these areas, these sites, we are near the residential areas, near industrial areas, and different streets with quite intensive traffic. Okay, so water quality. So looking on water quality, we had 6 points where we took samples in this fort, but the situation was quite different. In some areas, we have very good quality regarding the phosphorus. And why phosphorus is important? So high phosphorus concentration, it might lead to eutrophication. And afterwards, we can expect some algae bloom and some changes in community structure of the whole ecosystem. But in some points, we had very bad situation, very high, extremely high phosphorus concentration, which I think it will promote algae bloom in future. And we can see it from the color as well, because the color was not very good of these water samples. Regarding the heavy metals, so here there was no problem in most cases, but in some points we had some excess of copper and zinc. These heavy metals, they are essential. We have some biological functions, so this increase in this concentration, we will not induce some very adverse effects on biota, but we must to make our survey in the future as well to see how the situation is changing, if it's increasing or if it's decreasing. So talking about the manganese, I plotted it on different scale because it had higher concentration, but it wasn't above the threshold limits. There was no problem with manganese. And thinking about the possible reasons of phosphorus and copper zinc in water bodies, first of all, we have to think about untreated wastewater, which could come from households near the fort, and waste leachates. Because we have some sites of big waste in this fort, so if precipitation is percolating through these waste, so it produces leachates, and leachates, it might be quite polluted and might possess high concentration of both heavy metals and other contaminants as well, and phosphorus as well. Soil quality. So in soil, we measured the same heavy metals, and I would like to start from lead and cadmium, the most toxic heavy metals. They are non-essential metals, and good note and good message is that these two toxic metals were found only in several sampling sites. So we do not have very serious problem with these metals, but in some points where we had found these metals, they have been in excess of background values. So their concentration were higher than background level concentration in Lithuania. Possible sources of these metals, we can talk about transport, waste, as you can see, tires, we were left in this site, and tires, we have rather high concentration of these metals in this rubbish. So it might come from this as leachate. The other metals which we had analyzed, they were essential, but we had some problems as well. Cobalt, it has no exceedance comparing with background levels, but the others, chromium, nickel, copper, zinc, and manganese, we have exceedings both of background values, and in some points we have exceeding of limit values. So here we must to think it very carefully how to prevent this pollution and how to deal with it. So exceedance, how big it was. And the biggest problem, I think, it's coming from chromium. In several points, we have exceedance of limit values. Zinc, almost twofold bigger than the limit value in European Union, and manganese. It's also, but it was at very low exceedance levels, so it's only several percents in increase. So we see that the problems are related with transport, with waste, and maybe with some previous activity. All these metals, they are in tires, they are in the cars, devices and materials. So all these metals we usually find in excess near the streets because we have some deterioration of brakes of cars. And that's why these metals, they are leached and they can be found in the soil or maybe in water near the streets, near the roads. Also waste, we talk about waste, which we have found in this fort. So we can be coming from this waste and from residential areas, from households which are in the proximity. So maybe some activity, agriculture activity as well, herbicides, fertilizers, which can be applied in these households. We also can lead to the increase of these heavy metals. And previous activity, military activity is also important. And last thing, what I like to point you is how local communities, how they can contribute to environmental quality amelioration. So first of all, I think that they can give us active participation, how to reuse this territory and to find new applications and to deal it in real life very actively, not like politicians and bureaucrats. Yeah. So these activities like urban gardening, today we're talking about urban gardening. What kind of advantages and benefits we might expect for environment? First of all, if we have urban gardening, it increases our resistance to extreme weather events, floods or droughts, etc. And so with urban gardening, we contribute to climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. Phytoremediation. We can use some plants to improve soil quality. So we can use these phytoremediation plants which can extract pollutants from the soil, and afterwards we can reuse these plants as a biomass. We can reuse these plants as a biofuel production, etc. So we decrease greenhouse gases emission, we improve soil quality. So here we can expect several benefits. Moreover, if we choose attractive species, it could be very attractive to visitors as well. So it depends on our solution, what kind of species we can select for phytoremediation. Composting. Composting, it contributes to greenhouse emissions reduction. So mitigation of climate change as well. Urban gardening, we can help to increase biodiversity. Because if we have greeneries, so here we construct some habitat for animals and vertebrates, it doesn't matter. So we have some areas where to live in urban areas. If we have urban gardening in urban areas, so we have new recreational areas for public meetings, so places for people, and we might improve our quality of our living in the town or in the city. It depends on the size of your area. And what is really important, talking about cultural heritage, we might use old traditional methods we might choose old traditional species. So we may improve our cultural traditions, how to gardening, how to do it in traditional way, not using some synthetic fertilizers, using only biological things, etc. Other benefits of local community contribution, I think that we can raise awareness. We raise awareness on environmental issues, especially if we talk about pollution, climate change, and others like that. So we know how efficient was, for example, a youth movement in Europe, Fridays for Future, and others. So local communities, we might be very efficiently in some situations. Moreover, we share information. We share information, and people will like information coming from other people, not from politicians, not from authorities, but we believe on to other people, neighbors, friends, etc. So if we share this information among local community, so it might help to improve their contribution to different movements on environmental quality and cultural heritage and as well. And the last thing, I think that this movement of local communities, we can be engaged in decision making, especially at local level, at local authorities. And if we have local authorities and local communities who are looking to the same direction, we might give us some advantages. How to manage our urban life, how to manage our cultural heritage in sustainable manner. So always I refer to this synergy between community and authorities and scientists as well, because we can provide some data, measured data, reliable data, and we know how the situation is at the reality. So that's all what I'd like to present you today. So maybe you have some questions now.
Yes, Jūrate, thank you so much for such an informative presentation. It's really interesting to hear about the diversity of solutions, and of course, you know, it is a complex problem, and it needs many different ways of integrating new ideas. And I think it's just like, you know, addressing climate change in general, which also requires a multidisciplinary approach, and it's not just one solution fits all. So this is a nice illustration that locally we can have such problems or challenges as well. I have one question maybe for the pilot project. What is like the future of it? Will there be some remediation being started, or will you hand it over to then others to continue on your work?
Yeah, we will continue with our analysis first of all, and we discussed with Evelina the situation, because we see from our data that some points we share the same problems, that in some areas we can find numerous chemicals in excess. So how to solve this situation, how to clean it, and in such areas like cultural heritage, we cannot select any destructive method, So we have to choose environmental friendly method. So that's why phytoremediation is a very good option. So next thing is to look for other chemicals, and after that to choose the species which will be used, which can be used, because we should be efficient, we should be attractive, and we can be planted in this area. So we have to address all these issues.
Yes, like you said, and they have to be attractive. That is a park, so we want, of course, to the area to be beautiful and welcoming to more people for them to enjoy. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? If somebody would like to raise their hand and ask a question directly, I invite you to do so, or anyone can write in the chat as well if they have a question. Evelina, are there any questions from the live stream?
Thank you, Rate, for the presentation. We have no questions on Facebook. We may proceed, and for Jurate's work, it's really amazing to get this data and to be able to react on it with community members, and hopefully quite soon and starting in spring, to make our environment much better and much cleaner, and also to collaborate not only with Vytautas Magnus University, but also with heritage professionals and professionals working in Kauno Marių regioninis parkas. I see Evaldas Makrickas here, and I'm really looking forward to delving more into Natura 2000 area, which is also part of the fortress complex.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well then, thank you so much, Jūrate, for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will move forwards. Egidijus Bagdonas was unable to present today, but we will try to organize a separate live presentation from Kaunas Fortress. So please follow the Facebook page of Šilainių Sodai for that. It will happen in the future. And we will also hear more about the adoption of the military heritage of Kaunas Fortress later in today's event from Rūta Lukošiūnaitė. And also I would like to encourage everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. Some people have already started to do so, and it's great. I mean, let's connect on LinkedIn, other ways, continue. The work doesn't stop here. So I encourage everybody to say hello and introduce themselves. And let's move on. I would like to invite Jūratė Jackytė from the Kaunas municipality of a public health bureau specialist, World Health Organization Healthy Cities Network coordinator in Kaunas City, to talk about urban gardens and public health. So welcome, Jūratė.
Hello, everybody. I will try to share my screen.
I think we cannot hear you very well.
Can you now?
It's very quiet. Maybe you could...
Okay, I will try. Maybe it's better? Still no?
We can hear you, but it's very, very quiet. So maybe we can just increase the volumes, I guess. Can everyone else hear okay? Can somebody write in the chat?
Okay, so is it okay now, or I need to do something? I don't know what exactly.
Oh, okay, it's getting better now.
Okay,
Yes.
so I will start. So maybe if you cannot hear me, so stop me and say something, okay? So one more time, good afternoon for everyone. It is really nice to be a part of this forum, and today I want to talk about urban gardens and public health. What benefits for public health do they have, and how we can connect community to urban gardens, and what results we can get from it. So what is health? This is the main question, and WHO, it's the World Health Organization, says that health is a state of a complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So as we all know that health, there are so many parts of health, but the main parts are physical health, mental health, and our social well-being. And in other ways, we can say that our nutrition is really important. But try to visualize health. How does it look like in your ways? How you can imagine your health? Maybe it's a lemon, or maybe you can who's gardening, maybe it's a tomato, or maybe it's a bicycle which you can ride all the time in spring or even in autumn or winter, or maybe it's a park where you can run, or maybe it's a thermometer, and it's a popular nowadays talking about COVID situation. In Lithuania, we say that you cannot grow your money on a tree, but maybe you can grow on a tree a health. So let's try to find out. We all know that the United Nations set 17 sustainable development goals, and they are like a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all of us. And one of those goals are sustainable cities and communities. We want to expand the green spaces and give an access to all the public green spaces for all, especially, as it is said, for women and children, older persons, and persons with disabilities. And World Health Organization, Healthy Cities Network, is a global movement, and we are working to put health high on the social, economic, and political agenda of city governments. And Kaunas City in Lithuania is a part of this movement, and we are focusing on people participation, prosperity, peace, planet, and one of the major is place. And our aim is to create environments and places to drive health and well-being for all. We have to be happy that we have so many green spaces, and even urban gardens are expanding. We have so many public and private ones, parks, we have forests, and it was really interesting to expand my knowledge in this area. And I read that a study in the Netherlands showed that every 10% increase in exposure to green space translated into an improvement in health equivalent to being 5 years younger. And there are some other similar studies, and it is really interesting, and it's the way to think. That's one of the reasons why we have to save our trees and to expand our parks and green spaces for all. So talking about urban gardens, there are large to small, private and public, and there are some you can access only privileged ones that can access, and they are created not only in people's home, but in the hospitals, in the urban areas. And it's really interesting how green spaces and urban gardens are developing, and how they can make even buildings more sustainable. And talking about urban gardens and health, it is interesting to read all the researches. And we all say that go to the garden and just try to relax. And those people who really enjoy their time on the gardening, you can see that they become more happier for sure. Because gardening combines some physical activities and social interaction and exposure to nature and sunlight. And even in Lithuania, we are not so happy with so many sunlight, but as much as we can, we enjoy it. And sunlight lowers blood pressure, as well as increasing vitamin D levels in the summer. So as more you can be outside and to do some gardening, you can you don't need a gym. And in those times of pandemic and quarantine, you can just have your place and just calmly do some activities and be happy. So as I mentioned, that gardening has a physical activity, and working in the garden restores dexterity and strength, and the aerobic exercise that is involved can easily use the same number of calories as might expended in the gym. And digging, raking, and mowing are particularly calorie intense, as there is a gym outside many a window. So as I said, that it is really so beneficial to have a garden or enjoy a public one. And also talking about anxiety and relaxing, studies have shown significant reduction in depression and anxiety while working in the garden and doing some activities there. It was also very interesting that patients who are recovering from myocardial infarction or stroke find that exercise in a garden is more enjoyable than therapy in formal exercise settings. So some hospitals are trying to involve those people after some health issues to do interact them in interesting activities like gardening. And talking about school gardening, it is really interesting that it can increase children's fruit and vegetable intake. And in Lithuania, we have some, some private schools or kindergartens have their own I don't know how to say šiltnamis, but it's like a green space. Maybe somebody can help me.
Greenhouse.
Greenhouse, yes. Have greenhouses, and they plant their seeds there and grow their own vegetables. And later on, they cook something. And there's here you can see a conceptual model showing potential health and well-being effects of school gardening. So there's even a long-term and short-term. And as I said, that children not only have their physical activities, but they connect with other people, other kids, and improve their feelings. They relax. They feel more interacted in all those activities, and of course, it helps them to be more happier and take care of environment. And in Kaunas city and in all Lithuania, every spring, kids in schools and kindergartens grow their own litter gardens, and this project is called My Green Windowsill. In Kaunas city, Public Health Bureau takes care of seeds and gives all the schools and kindergartens, and later on they organize it as a special event with kids where they can start to plant it. And as you can see in the picture, they grow not only herbs but tomatoes as well. And the main aim of this project is to promote interest in plants and their use in creating a healthy environment for educational spaces, and to develop children's responsibility for the environment. And it is really interesting to see how children take care of their plants, and later they can eat it or they can bring to home. And here you can see a really interesting process. It was probably last year. Those pictures are from last year because the projects often goes from January to May. But last year, during the pandemic, I'm not sure if they planned it, but this year they can plant it at home. So probably everybody, including parents, will be a part of this project. And we talked about children and how it is important for them to be a part and to plant and to get to know better about all the plants and environment. And talking about elder people are really, the statistic shows that there are more and more every year older people. And these numbers are growing not even in Lithuania, but in all the world. And Lithuanians are not used to take care of their health. And we have a public health bureau in Kaunas city, have a healthy aging project. And the aim of this project is to improve elder people health literacy. And we have like 3 parts, as I mentioned before. As a health, it is really important to focus on physical health, emotional state, and to improve nutritional skills. And I'm really happy to say that during this project, which started 3 years ago, we created in 2 spaces in Kaunas, in different areas, 2 public healthy cooking studios, and one of them is near Šilainiai, in Šilainiai, not so far from Šilainiai Urban Garden. And in those kitchen, we have healthy cooking classes. Of course, it was at least 4 times per month during good times, but last year everything changed, so we stopped it for now. So we think that maybe if everything will be okay in this later spring or summer, we can start and open our Šilainiai healthy cooking studio and make their cooking classes. And our vision is to collaborate with Šilainiai Urban Garden, and we talked with Evelina that maybe elder people can who are living in Šilainiai area, maybe they can grow their own vegetables or herbs or some fruits, and when it grows, maybe they can bring it to cooking classes, and during cooking classes they can not even use those vegetables, but they can to get more knowledge about how to cook it in a healthy way. As gardening becoming more important as people getting old, and for them it's a source of physical activity and socialization. And I'm not sure, but I think last year it was a study in Lithuania, and one of the most interesting, and the study was conducted last year, I think, but the participations was 60 years and older people in Lithuania. I'm not sure, but I think that there was 300 approximately. And the most important thing and the most interesting thing is that older people are interested in gardening. And in Lithuania, They are also interested in sport activities, and Public Health Bureau in Kaunas City, we have sport activities, and before the pandemic, so many older people were participated and were a part of our projects. It is important them to study, and as I mentioned, it is important for them to take care of the garden, and gardening has really main place in their hearts. And in Lithuania, it is really interesting that so many people have their own gardens, even they are not living on their own house. If they have flat somewhere in the countryside, they have their own gardens, and they spend there so many leisure time, especially in summer, and that was the reason why we stop, why we not, how to say, we're not doing some sport activities during summer, because we know that all the older people in Kaunas, they go to their gardens and they spend their time there. So here you can see that how much important gardening is for older people. And talking about gardening and how we want to connect communities to this, there's a project and program, even social prescribing. It is really important. It was started in Scotland, as I remember, and social prescribing enables general practitioners, like doctors, nurses, and other primary care professionals to refer people to a range of local, non-clinical services to support their health and well-being. So it is saying that all the activities and schemes are often focused on mental health and well-being, and all the time it's the main focus is on volunteering. And if, for example, elder people comes to GP, so he just wants to, he feels sad, or he wants to talk to somebody, he can the doctor can say for this person that just look, there's like a list of so many activities which is going on in our local community, so you can go there to volunteer, to do some activities, and to use it for your health improvement. And gardening is one of this part, and GPs prescribe gardening for patients. It is in other, as it's in Scotland, in England, it is really popular, quite popular, and those people are. Here we can see what the main role is for public health, that they are not prescribing medications. Maybe it's, I'm not saying, but maybe it's a part of it, but some and most of the how to say, situations, gardening or other activities is the best prescription to improve their health. And social prescribing in Kaunas, we are still evaluating this project, and we have a list, a short book where elder people can find where they can go to volunteer and where they can spend their time. And Šilainiai Urban Garden is one of our long list, and actually as I mentioned that last year was really hard for all the world, so we also have to tackle all those problems. So these activities were not evolved, but because elder people were not able to go to the doctor as much as they want, and we are we hope that this year we can continue this social prescribing project in Kaunas city and invite as much people as we can, because if people before the pandemic felt loneliness and were not that happy and wanted to improve their health, probably we will see the results, but probably the situation is getting worse, and we really want to help people to find some activities where they can connect with other people and socialize and improve their not even physical but mental health, and improve their nutrition during cooking classes. So we want to make a big community and to show them where they can find some activities and improve their health. So, as I mentioned, if we can grow our happiness on a tree, so probably, yes, we can grow our happiness by planting gardens, by expanding green spaces, by using all grown vegetables, herbs, and fruits. And I hope that we can plant our seeds, and this is the way that we can make to be more happier during those and this pandemic times. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, be open and don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jūrate, for a wonderful presentation. Yeah, like you said, I mean, gardening is what I always say is it's a tool. So it's a tool for a lot of things. It can be an educational tool, a tool for improving your health. So when we think of gardening, it's always much broader than just planting, you know, the plants and participating in that activity. So it's wonderful how you pointed out all of the many benefits of urban gardening. So now we've been really, you know, focused for an hour and a half, and I know that Jūrate, you have some exercise for us to take a small break. So yeah, if you're ready, we can try to do this
yes.
exercise together. Just to say, your hair is sometimes rubbing in your microphone, so maybe you could put your hair back.
Oh, I will. No, I don't use it.
Maybe is it better now?
So,
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I'm not. I see that not everybody have their video on, but maybe they can follow my steps. And I'm not sure if we can have a music. But first step is just to turn your smile on. Because I see the sun is shining outside and we are talking about gardening. We are talking about our environment and how important it is for us. So while we are sitting here, just try to relax and just follow my steps. So first we can do these activities. It is really sad that we have to spend so much time at home and while sitting. Okay, so now breathe in, breathe out there. Breathe in, breathe out there. And one more time with our hands. I don't see, I hope everybody is smiling and have their good mood today because it's Friday and the weekend is coming and tomorrow we have some freedom from our government. Now we can turn our heads and try to do some exercises for your neck. We can turn around. To one side, to other side. And your shoulders, try to do this activities. Turn around your shoulders. Because as we are sitting, our muscles are really not so much relaxed as we would like to be. We were spinning around and now to other side. Okay, now this. You can see in the screen and everybody's smiling. Try to breathe. Do not forget to breathe. We can do it a couple of times. Okay, now please to stand up. It's time to stand up, no time to... Okay, so try to raise your leg. And spin your foot. Spin your foot. Turn around your foot. Turn around your foot. Other foot. Okay, so the best time is to breathe in. So deep breathe. And let go everything. Deep breathe. And let go everything. And the last one. Applause for you. Some exercises is always good, and I can say that in one startup we wanted to create a program while you are sitting in the Zoom call. Some program shows up, and then it's time to you to know that it's time to do some exercises. So do not forget it.
Oh, wonderful, Jūrate. Thank you so much. So good to now feel refreshed and energized for the rest of our forum today. Thank you so much again for your presentation. And now we'd like to move on to our next speakers. I would like to invite Jūrate Lukošiūnaitė, sustainability practitioner of the project Šilainiai Gardens developer, to talk about urban gardening, holistic placemaking, approach for sustainability.
Yes, so first I will try to share my screen. Let's see. Can everyone hear me and see my slides?
Yes.
Great. Yes, so my name is Rūta Lukošiūnaitė, and I am one of the Šilainiai Urban Gardens project co-creator. And today I will very briefly tell you and show you our gardens. And my main message today is that urban gardening is a holistic placemaking approach for sustainability. And this is the view with which we work every day. So before I show you the gardens, let's see where they are actually. We are located in Lithuania, in the second biggest city in Lithuania called Kaunas, and we are on a heritage site. We are on Kaunas Fortress Park territory, located in Fortress number 8. And gardens originally were quite widespread throughout the territory, but now we're trying to define them a little bit more. So even though we are a small dot on the earth, we think that our actions count, and we hope to inspire more of small local activities that can contribute and take action on climate. So I will tell you today very shortly our garden story. I will show you our places. I will tell you very briefly about our super simple composting system. And then I will finish with a bit broader view, how we think our gardens contribute to taking action on climate. So the garden story. We are quite a young project. We started in 2018. And from the beginning, we had a vision, a mission, and kind of action which was oriented towards facilitating military land reclaiming process for community needs, ensuring sustainable coexistence of humans, nature, and heritage. So these three elements, humans, nature, and heritage, are super intertwined in our activities. Because we are on a heritage site, we have to take it into consideration, and we can't overtake the whole park because it has many different functions, and people use the space in very different ways. We also have many different natural elements. The fortress as well is in Natura 2000, as mentioned before. We have many species and many things happening there. And obviously, because we are located in the city, humans are always present, directly or indirectly. So currently, we are a vibrant community with quite many visitors and initiatives. And all of this is coordinated by Evelina Šimkutė, and it takes a lot of work. But we were not always such a vibrant and active community. In 2018, Evelina actually observed a miscommunication happening between heritage lovers and the long-term fortress gardeners. Fortress lovers who wanted to bring this a little bit abandoned and run down fortress wanted to clean it up, and in their vision, that included, or more precisely, that excluded gardening from the area. So they were suggesting that the existing gardeners should leave the space, should pack up, and should discontinue their activities. Because if they would continue gardening, their activities would not be tolerated, and they maybe also would be considered unlawful. So when we were witnessing this kind of messaging, we thought that there is the second side of the story as well. And Evelina decided to be a lot in the fortress and try to meet the gardeners and talk to them and to see what is their view. And I really like how Jūratė presented a gazillion benefits of gardens, and our conversations with the gardeners also prove that. Because what our gardeners said is that they come to the space because they can see the blooming trees and waking up nature. They can spend time in fresh air and they can recharge. Senior Ona Zita also says that she is prolonging her life here. And as well, because the majority of existing gardeners were seniors, the social life is also very important to them. And gardening is one of the activities where can actually meet their colleagues, discuss, and just share experience of growing food for themselves. So these views actually sparked the project of Šilainiai Urban Gardens, and our conversations led to the meeting in 2019 we met on the fortress in the middle of the gardens with quite a big part of the senior gardeners together with the Kaunas Fortress Park organization. And we, first of all, talked to each other and saw each other's faces. So we're not anymore anonymous group that we can point fingers to. And we agreed that urban gardening is going to be part of the activities that are promoted on the Fortress number 8, first of all. And later on, maybe Egidius will tell also how this activity and just involvement of community is going to be part of the overall Fortress vision. And we are very excited and happy that even though pandemic hit the world, in 2020, we actually managed to involve new people to join the place. And we had some families, we had a few people from Fridays for Future as well. And I think in this way, by inviting new people to take care of a small box, which is only 1 square meter, we already are encouraging intergenerational communication, because you can see that there in the background, on the ground, there's like big gardens where the seniors garden because they're experienced and they can handle a lot. And our new inexperienced gardeners can learn a lot from them. And this is the goal, to try to give the opportunity for as many people as possible to first of all, see the space, be there, and create the place, which we intend to do, and also learn and grow some food for themselves as well. Because we can't be presently in the space, I want to tell you a bit about what are the places we have in the fortress. And in the map, you can see that Šilėniai urban gardens have a designated territory at the moment. And that was the goal of the 2019 meeting, to try to bring some clarity where this activity can happen and where is the space that is needed for all the other fortress activities like cultural events and big gatherings, which hopefully someday will happen again. So we mainly, Šilėniai Urban Gardens project works in that yellow territory. And we focus, me and Evelina, we mainly focus on 2 spaces where we try to make them a bit more public and interactive. And in the rest, currently, it's the seniors who have been gardening there for decades, and some maybe their entire lives. They are still continuing their activities, and we are trying to bring them into our more educational events and similar initiatives. So the first space, which we started building in 2019, was built collaboratively. We involved quite a few people. Sometimes they got involved just by passing by and observing that something's happening and asking questions. And I think this is the great element of how places are made. You have to be in the space, you have to be present, and you have to be willing to talk to anyone passing through. And this is what Evelina does in a very creative way. So now we have, in this space, we have 11 communal raised beds, 2 compost boxes, and we have 12 small raised beds for educational purposes, where everyone, well, people can sign up and get a bed to take care for a year or maybe continue, because we have quite a few people who want to continue this activity. Our second space, we intend to call it Sustainability Zone, and currently it's a pure experimentation ground. This year, or in the coming years, we also would like to create another educational space where people can learn about gardening. And this would be meant for a bit bigger groups, maybe coming from kindergartens or schools, or maybe some organizations and businesses who would like to learn about gardening and what does it mean to garden in a city. But currently, until we organize the place, we are experimenting, and we had concerts, furniture workshops. We also had very ambitious architects and artists who spent quite a lot of time trying to deal with all the rubbish that we collected throughout the 2 years, and which are quite a big problem, as Jūratė Žaltauskaitė mentioned already. So these artists were trying to creatively address this problem, and we still have to try to deal with it. And yes, so very shortly about our composting system, if I can call it. I will talk only about the raised beds and the compost boxes for them. So we have 2 boxes, and the senior gardens, they have their own systems in which we don't intervene at the moment, because we first want to learn what is the best way and what we can actually recommend to them to improve their composting practices maybe. And we try to compost according to Kaunas City Municipality guidelines, and we choose to compost in the space because, well, first of all, we want to learn how to compost and how to make a rich and mature compost that can be beneficial for our gardens. And because our project is entering the 3rd year, this year we will also build a 3rd box, because that is a recommendation to have a 3-year rotation for the compost to have enough time to mature. If we wouldn't be composting on site, we actually would have to transport all our green waste to a collection site, which is 13 kilometers away on the other side of the city. So we would have to use cars or trucks, and obviously that would increase the environmental footprint, and also would remove the opportunity for us to learn how to deal with all these materials that are in our garden. Yes, so I tried to squeeze a lot in a very short presentation, but my main message is that urban gardening is a holistic placemaking approach for sustainability. And we believe that this is the way we are taking action on climate. And just to expand a little bit on that, I'm not sure if you see the whole thing, but I will make a connection to Sustainable Development Goals, which were already mentioned here. And our project believes that our initiative's strength comes from the partnerships and relationships that we are forming. And this is with all the artists, with all the people surrounding the project, organizations on a local and the city level. We are involving scientists who are even in other cities. So this transdisciplinary collaboration is the strength. And this is why we can really claim that the project is holistic, because we have so many different views that we can integrate. In the future, we are aiming to establish an entrepreneurship model that would ensure some financial stability for us. Because currently we work on a project-to-project basis, which can be sometimes uncertain, and it also reduces the speed and the scale on which we can take action on climate. So the financial stability is crucial for such projects. So preparing for this presentation, I also tried to make the endless list of benefits that gardening can have for individuals, communities, society as a whole. But I think Jūratė already mentioned most of them, and it's just uncountable because it is a very immersive experience, and it has benefits for everything, even down to your genes, some research says. And I would like to finish by mentioning the biosphere and also what Jūratė Žaltauskaitė talked about. And the biosphere and the environment is the essence and the most important element of a holistic approach to gardening, I would say. And nurturing biosphere means taking action on climate, and it means nurturing our gardens and ourselves. Because if our environment is not healthy, we won't be healthy. So biosphere is the foundation of our idea, and through partnerships, we believe we can have many social benefits as well. So thank you very much. We can connect on Facebook. You can always write to us, and hopefully soon you can also come and visit us. Thank you very much.
Oh, wonderful, Ruta. Thank you so much for a great presentation. Really incredible to see all that is happening, and a big congratulations to you and also Evelina, of course, for developing everything and making this project really a reality and an example for others to also start their own. We will have some bit of time for questions after the next two presentations. So if anyone has questions, feel free to write in the chat and we will get to them a bit later. And now we would like to branch out a little bit internationally. We had a look in Lithuania, what is happening, and now it's really interesting to see what is happening outside of the country in Europe. So I would like to invite our next speaker, Anneli Avril, a composting expert from Estonia, and to talk about how to raise awareness about composting on a national level and inspire people to start doing it. I think we have a lot to learn there. So Anneli, the stage is yours.
Hello. So I'm really happy to be here. So and to see you. It was really interesting presentation before. So thank you very much. And I already thought that I want to also see a recording again, so to just see some parts of this presentation which were especially interesting. So I will share the overview of what we have done in Estonia regarding composting. We started in Estonia 2015, so it was 5.5 years ago. And my background is that I grew up in a countryside, so the composting was absolutely normal thing in my life. And if I moved to the city, then I noticed that almost no one composting in the city. And that was really strange to me, because it's not just about managing bio-waste and tackling the waste crisis in the world. But at the same time, I see it as a cultural heritage. So this is something which we have had already from long time ago, and this is the way how we are connected with the nature, and how we can feel that we are also part of the environment, part of life. And in that perspective, I see that the composting is really important, that the people continue with that, and they feel and see that we as a humankind is also part of biodiversity and the life circle. So our aim was to start to encourage people to start with composting. And if we made the first campaign, we saw that just raising awareness wasn't enough. There were so many obstacles why people didn't start with composting. So we conducted the survey to find out what are the main obstacles. And basically there were 3 main obstacles. First, it was really low awareness about composting. The first people even haven't thought about that they could start with composting. That was the main thing. But also, if they wanted to start with composting, they just didn't know how. They haven't seen composting in their childhood as I was seen, and there was so many myths about composting that it attracts rats and birds, it smells and so on. Then they also there was a lot of fears that if something is going wrong, what I'm doing then, what I'm also doing with the soil if it's ready once, and so on. So the second one was financial challenges. It means that if you are composting in the city, you need closed compost bin, so you can't compost kitchen waste in the open compost bin. So that means that people are going to the shop and they see the price of the compost bin and they said no, because I'm not so fan of composting to pay hundreds of euros for composting. And from our side, there was also the question that that if I even make this investment, there was no financial benefits. So, for example, if I start to composting, I still had to pay for managing bio-waste. So I couldn't refuse of bio-waste bin at my home. So it was basically like a double paying. And the third one was missing infrastructure. It means that if you are living in the big building, so usually there were no composting like infrastructure around this house. So if we're building the new houses, yes, there are bins for waste, but there is no compost box. And also we have received a lot of question about from communities who started composting, that now we have a ready compost and where to put it, because they don't have enough territory around their house to use all this compost. So it's also missing infrastructure, and basically we also need some service which collect ready compost and using it, for example, in community public spaces, in the play cards or just in the green areas. So, and these are the three wings which we are still working on. And we trying to nudge all these things in order to encourage people to start with composting and eliminate all the obstacles on their way. Of course, we are still absolutely in the beginning, and we have some progress, but still it's a long way to go. The first what we did was that we put together the composting web page. It's in Estonian, and this web page consists all the information about composting. So how to start, so what are the different types of composting, how to avoid mistakes, if something bad happens, so what I do then, and so on and so on. Also, there is a lot of videos about, so it's not just the text, but also videos with different topics. And we used here at that time the one famous musician and entertainer in Estonia, which turned out that he is also a compost man. It means that he is living in the countryside, and he's not just composting, but using the heat which comes from compost to heat his house. So it was really, really great system what he has built in the countryside. So basically it's the local energy factory, compost energy factory. So we used him to make all these videos. It's also the one way how to show that the composting is not something for environmental people, some like a, this is not like a niche activity, but this is something which everyone should do, and people maybe don't expect that the guy who is staying on the stage and making a lot of jokes, he can also be really environmentally friendly and also to composting. Then we also started training for beginners. And it was really, really necessary. As I said before, people just didn't know how to compost. And we made trainings. We are still doing the trainings around Estonia. And we are basically starting from ABC. So how to start, what to do if something goes wrong, what actually is happening in the compost, what to put there and what not, why you should not put some things in the compost, and so on and so on. So all these trainings have been really interactive, and people have a lot of questions. And we also found out that there is also different, how to say, the philosophies about composting. So and people are really passionately arguing how to do composting and what to put and what not. So it's really interesting. Sometimes there is no final truth. You know, the composting is something which is kind of like raising a child. So there are rules, but you also have to be really agile and have to, you know, adapt to the circumstances. Then we have had many nationwide campaigns where we convince people that the composting is really natural and really simple. We have had the TV clips and radios and prints and so on. It's like a classical awareness campaign. And I would like to show really short example of one video. So there are two girls. The one is, the both are eating the pear, and the one is throwing the pear to the ground. The second one is putting to the compost bin. And then the first one asks why you are doing that. And then it says really deeply that I want to eat pear also in the future. I had to explain because it's in Estonian.
Mis teed? Kompostin. Miks? Sest ma tahan homme ka pirni süüa.
So it was our way to show that the children should be engaged to the composting, that we do composting for the future, and that was really great TV clip, which really, you know, made an impact. So then we also made something funny. For example, if you remember, we all had centenary of our countries. We celebrated the 100-year birthday of the countries or the republics. And in Estonia, there was a campaign that let's make gifts to Estonia. And we also thought what we should make for Estonia as a gift. And then turned out that the one regular compost bin consists approximately 1 ton of soil. And we decided that let's make a gift of 100 tons of soil or compost to Estonia, which was really a nice idea because you know, the soil is something which, you know, we can't live without soil, and this is really where we grow and where we going back. So, and giving soil to Estonia, it was really like really symbolic. Of course, we didn't take this compost and didn't brought it to the government office. So that was, we asked people to start with composting, to register this effort, and basically we need 100 people who started with composting, and they were ready to dedicate or to gift it to Estonia. So in the result, we gifted 102 tons of soil, which was made for Estonia. And also what we have done is that we recognize kindergarten and schools who start with composting. And we give them signs, which is composting school or composting kindergarten. And they are really, this recognition process is really emotional and really nice, because we can see a lot of photos with children who are passionately composting, and that was really, really great. So I'm really happy to say that there are a lot of kindergarten in Estonia who are really composting. Not like that as on the picture, but also we are doing a leaf compost and also vermicompost with worms. And here is the one example how kindergarten Pallipõnn is made a vermicompost as a year-round program. They started with the festival to collect money to buy vermicompost, and then they had all year everything what they did in the kindergarten, everything what they learned in the kindergarten, it was connected with worms, and children took them as pets, and they loved them, and everything was around it. So it was a really, really great program, and can be also an example to our kindergarten. And what we also do, we do a lot of experiments. Here is, for example, some biodegradable and compostable dishes. So many companies are turning to us and asking us to promote their products, compostable products. But before we start promoting or advising to use them, we always trying them. And so far we haven't had any brand or any product which really compost in the compost bin. So these are the dishes which we found in the compost after 6 months. But on the package there was promised that they are biodegrade or compost in 2 weeks in the home compost. So it's something to think about it. And also a really nice initiative in Estonia is a waste box. This is the composting device for apartments or to keep them on the terrace. It's electrical, so you can put the waste inside. It's preheated. Also add some fermentation, and in 2 weeks you have already compost. It's growed from students' company, and we're really looking forward that we start to sell their devices already around Estonia and also maybe globally. And also in the end, I would like to show you the one restaurant. It's really high-end restaurants in Estonia named Fotografiska. And which is great is that they compost everything what they have in the restaurants, all the leftovers in their compost in basement. And this is the 24 hours composting device. And it shows that it's actually possible that all the restaurants or all the organization who are having a lot of bio waste, they actually are able to do it on the place. So, and in the end, we always used to say to people that there is no way to fail with composting, because nature always helps you. So thank you very much. And if you have any question, here is my contact data, and please don't hesitate to reach me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anneli, for sharing your experience. I think there's a lot to learn for everyone, and I hope there will be some collaborations in the future to bring all of your experience and knowledge to here to Lithuania, maybe also to Latvia. Let's share and connect. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce now Maria Derlos, urban activist from Tallinn, to also give a presentation about urban gardening.
Yeah, hello. To just add to Anneli's presentation, since today the seminar is focusing also on urban gardening, I am closely connected with some of the urban gardens or specifically community gardens in Tallinn. But now for the last 2.5 years, I'm also working for the city of Tallinn, city administration, to support the development of new urban gardens, which includes also financial support. And it could be in the topics of how to start an NGO to operate an urban garden, and also all the topics in connection with very practical questions, also composting. But also, as Anneli said, composting has been very natural topic. The same is in all the urban gardens in Tallinn. I cannot imagine that an urban garden could be without a compost. The same way as it cannot be without some kind of rainwater collection, for example. So it's a holistic system. And there is no kind of specific maybe approach, but just to give a context, at the moment we have 13 community gardens, and you can see that they are quite well scattered throughout the city, except for some areas that are not, let's say, covered at the moment. But we just had our annual project applications, and it's promising that we will have 4 more community gardens in Tallinn that will be covering some other neighborhoods as well. And all of these community gardens, of course, compost. And just to, again, give kind of a wide understanding, the community gardens could be really, really small, like these. So both of them are in the city center of Tallinn, really close to roads, very close to our old town. And it's still possible to use these smaller green spaces and to also find a compost there. So it's very important to also stress that they are composting, not food waste. As Anneli said, it's green waste that usually is composted on site. So it's anything that is kind of left from the activities in the garden. Of course, it could be in small parts some kind of food waste. For example, if your tomatoes were partly rotten, maybe because of some small accidents, you didn't harvest them in the right time, then you put it in compost, but it's not kitchen waste. So other gardens are larger and usually situated in, or very often situated in a courtyards of these kind of kindergartens that are not functioning anymore, but now are more like kind of new cultural spaces. For example, in one of them in the left, there's a library. On the one on the right, we have elderly day center and youth center. So these community gardens function in close collaboration with these institutions, engaging people that come there usually. So people that come to community garden, they are part of all of these activities, including also composting. For example, if we have some kind of events in the garden and there's some kind of organic waste, people ask us where do we throw them out, because we don't have kind of a waste bin in a kind of usual way that is seen, and we always point people, there's a compost, you have to put it there. So it's kind of engaging them in this everyday way. Some gardens are in an open space, some have quite big greenhouses. So yeah, we have a variety of community urban gardens at the moment. And yeah, in addition, there's over 100 educational institutions that also have their urban gardens and who compost. So it's really great to see that they're all engaging in this way, and it's also natural part for them. And yeah, the kind of thumb rule, I guess, the very easy one is that if it's food waste, it has to be closed composter. So you can also compost kitchen waste, but you have to make sure that it's wholly closed, so it's not accessible, for example, for like rats or for some seagulls. And if it's green waste, it's okay to have it open. Usually we can often see this kind of compost bins, very easy ones from plastic, but it's great that more people are actually doing from this kind of pallets or some wood material that is maybe left over, and they put together this kind of compost open one like you see in the middle. So yeah, as also Evelina has asked me previously, do we have any guidance for the ones that are composting the community gardens? Then in one of the specific ones that I'm closely connected, we have this poster, and we decided that it shouldn't be, it has to be very visual so that people can easily understand what they can put in compost. So everything that is visualized is everything you can compost. So we don't visualize those that we don't want people to throw out, of course. So this poster we have shared to other community gardens as well, and it has been proved quite efficient and enough. We don't have any troubles, let's say, in terms of communication for people on spot in terms of composting. So yeah, this is just a short overview of urban gardens and what we do in terms of composting, how we do it. If you're interested in following our activities, you can join Facebook group, Edible City Tallinn, like Tallinn. It's mostly in Estonian, but Facebook has this nice setting of translating posts. So come to visit when it's possible again. And if you have any questions, you can contact me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for your presentation. Wow, it's so inspiring to see all of these urban gardens, and they're thriving and people are getting involved. It's really wonderful to see. We have a lot to learn from you, I think. I would like to now move on to our next speaker, Jaakko Blomberg, producer, activist, city maker, innovator, founder of Kera Kollektiivi, co-founder of Helsinki Urban Art, and to talk about transforming public space. So Jaakko, you're welcome to join.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, really interesting talks. It's nice to hear about all those stuff in other cities. So now I will talk about kind of project that I've been working with, some of them in Helsinki. They are a bit like not all about urban gardening, but it's more about public space, but also there's kind of some kind of green aspect in most of them. So just a minute, I will share my screen. So, can you see it?
Yes, but it's not full screen now.
It's not full screen. For me, it is full screen. Okay.
Maybe you have two screens on, or?
No. Sharing is on.
Maybe you can just hide the menu and then it's okay.
Because I don't see any menu.
Oh, okay.
Just a minute. I just see full screen. I will try it again.
Yes, it works now.
So,
yes.
Now, okay, good. I don't know what it is. So now I have to go quite quickly to go all through all this stuff. So I work a lot with people, cities, and art and activism, and I kind of have a I do it as work. I work with different organizations and cities and so on, but I also kind of like we have our own association and we make our own project through that, and then also kind of just like as a free activist do different kind of stuff. One of the biggest the first big project that I made was cleaning day. With a few friends of mine, we started this day where people can go to have a flea market anywhere in the city, and we made a web page for that so that you can put your stand there, and this way you can kind of find the other sellers and so on. And it started kind of without any permission from the city. But like after a success, they gave it the permission, and we got some private funding for it and also some support from the city. And it has been running since then. It was founded in 2012, and it's organized twice a year. And kind of the idea is to make recycling and flea markets easy and fun, and this way like a lot of people have taken part in it, and it's also a good channel to kind of talk about all other green stuff. So we have about 65,000 people in Facebook as followers, so it's a huge chance to reach people. Then another big project that we did with the same people, with Paulina and Tanya, was Dinner Under the Helsinki Sky. We thought like how could we kind of celebrate the birthday of Helsinki, and we thought to gather people and close the street. It's one of the main streets in the center of Helsinki, so this is how it looks usually, and this is how it looks during the event. It was made for the first time in 2013, and it has been running since then. And the idea is that we just offer the space for the people at the table, and they bring their own food. And again, like this food works just like flea markets. People like flea markets. People like also eating. So it's a good way to bring people together, and also kind of at the same time we show like how the space could be without cars. And now actually at the moment there are talks about like if this street should be closed for cars also. So it's also a good way to imagine how a city could look like if we would use it in a different way. Yeah, and even though the first time it started to rain, still all people stayed there, and it also shows like how kind of committed people are when they are actually making the project and not just like coming there as for a free meal, but they have the ownership for it. Another flea market thing is I live on the street Aleksis Kivenkatu, and there's a park, and I thought it would be nice to have a Sunday flea market there. And then I just made a Facebook page saying that every Sunday people go to this park to have a flea market, and then it actually happened. It wasn't true, but like then people started to do it, and now it's the biggest flea market in Finland, and even promoted by the city, and like kind of everyone knows it. But still, it has no organizer, so it's kind of totally just made by the people. They just come there and have their flea market and go. Also, people have started to sell food. There are like this places selling coffee and ice cream, and yeah, like so like it's like a really kind of big market. Then we'll work also a lot with urban art, or through this association called Helsinki Urban Art. We do most of the project that we do. We started more with just like art project, but it has been going more towards placemaking and community stuff. this is one of the main project of us, Pasila Street Art District. It's like an area built in the 70s where there's like a lot of concrete, and we have turned the whole place into kind of street art collection. So there are about 80 artworks in this small area, and a place where no one kind of went to visit. Now people coming to see this art. We also do like collaborative stuff. So kind of with the local people, we have painted also like walls and staircases and ground, as like in this example. I live next to a former train factory. This is where I also work kind of as an activist, although I'm negotiating to have our office also here. But for a few years ago, it looked bad for this area. It was like mostly empty. But then like a hardware store, Bauhaus, wanted to buy this and like turn it into a huge like a hardware market. So we started a movement kind of that we have to save this area. And we made some alternative plans like how this area could be. Unfortunately, it's finished, but it says about there could be galleries, restaurants, studios, event spaces, and so on. And we kind of just wanted to show people like what this place could be. I mean, this plan was not based on anything, but it was just like from our head, like what would be nice to have there. But this way we kind of like woke up the people like, oh, we can't waste this space and have there just like some big hardware market. And then the politicians also turned against it and stopped this project. And then I went with this guy. It's actually from USA, the former ambassador of USA. We went to a community sauna together, and then I asked like if he would like to invest in this place, and then he actually bought these buildings. And this is like the first meeting with the local people. So there were 300 people in this first meeting with the locals. So it was like really important place for the locals. And then now we have they are building like some independent movie theaters and concert places, and there's a national theater has like a stage now there and so on. So it has turned into like really vibrant place. There's also a hotel now and so on. And now we kind of try to make it also, because the public space is owned by the city, and it's kind of a bit empty. So through participatory budgeting, we have tried to get like more green stuff, so trees and playground and urban gardening and so on. We had already this idea once in the voting, but we landed second. Now we are trying it again with a bit different plan. But this is from the last time, like our kind of picture how it could be. One project that I made a few years ago in Kalasatama is a free city of Kalasatama. It's kind of a empty space where we turned like a place where people can organize stuff. So we brought some containers. People could organize their concerts, whatever they actually want to do. And then we had also some urban gardening there. So it was kind of just for everyone to use. We had also some place for grilling. So, and you could use all these herbs and strawberries and whatever they were like growing there. And these guys are actually playing ping pong, like using it as a playground also. And it was really popular place. So I kind of like to combine this kind of different elements, so that it's not just urban garden, it's not just event place, it's not just a flea market, but it's kind of combination of everything. And this way they can kind of all benefit from each other. This is from one of the concerts in that place. And so some people also organized wrestling event. So it's funny to see what people come up when they have the freedom. Then we changed this project to a mall, nearby mall. So they have had an empty space there, and we turned that like kind of into a living room where you can also organize stuff and hang out and work and you can have art exhibitions and exchange books. And we are also trying to have a urban garden on the rooftops of the mall. So I think this kind of collaboration is also possible with kind of places that are maybe not thought so easily to be good partners. Also playground for children. Now about Kera Collective, the kind of the main project at the moment, it's in Espoo actually, so neighboring city of Helsinki. This is it's like an old logistics center. So it's really huge, almost 100,000 square meters, like a lot of clay. So last year we started to work with this project. First we brought some art on the walls, and then we had our urban garden there. So this is from last summer. It worked out quite well because we got like a lot of people involved, although it was Corona time, and it's kind of an area where like not that many people are living nearby. So and we also like had this is also why there's like so much space between these beds, because we kind of had to give enough space for people to work on their own beds. And part of these beds are like for communal use, and part of them are belong to like people can garden whatever they want. We got the water. This is actually a parking slot. So this all the space that you can see in the picture was first for cars, so we kind of occupied it from the cars, and it is like private, owned by this house, this parking slot. So it was really nice to have it for this use, and then the city of Espoo was supporting us to do this, and also we get the water from the buildings nearby. So you can see the water tanks on the left, which makes it of course much easier to do things there. The biggest problem that we have is are actually the rabbits, because there are like a lot of rabbits that come to eat the plants, and we are now kind of figuring out to make some kind of list, like, okay, these are the plants that rabbits don't like that much. you can grow them, because so if you have good ideas about that, like, please let me know, because it's actually quite frustrating if everything is eaten by the rabbits. Yeah, so this is like from the spring when we are still building the place, and it was still a bit cold, so some of them were covered. And this is from above the from the other side, kind of like this garden is like here close by. This is the inner yard where we have then painted a lot walls, like huge murals, and also organized events and flea markets, again like combination of everything, also indoors. And then there's also like one company called InnoGreen that has also made like a they are kind of trying vertical urban gardening. So also many people who have their own garden in our urban garden are also gardening here, and they can say that yeah, I had some. So you can actually see that there are like some of these are kind of growing on these walls, and so it's quite interesting area also what they are doing there. And just a few words about composting. We also have their compost for the green waste, but like it's not really common to have like food waste composted, because it's just like before said, it has to be protected from animals, and also if it's used in the winter, it has to be thermally insulated, which makes it a bit more complicated. Also, because bio-waste is basically gathered quite efficiently, so all housing companies with at least 5 apartments have to call it bio-waste. And 65% of the households say that they sort their bio-waste, but actually at the moment only 1/3 of the bio-waste is recycled. So that could be much better here in Finland. And this bio-waste is treated to get biogas and soil. So actually last or 2019, 50,000 tons of soil was produced from this bio-waste, and also 22,000 mega. What is this? A lot of energy was produced too. So it's basically counted that if a family recycles all the bio-waste, the energy that is produced in a year is enough to drive 400 kilometers with an electric car. So this is also kind of, it's often considered that if it's like a housing company and you don't need the soil, it's actually more kind of ecological to bring it to bio-waste, so that also this energy can be used from this bio-waste. Okay, that's my presentation. Sorry, it took a bit longer. Always so much things to say about. You can check out more about from these pages and social media. Thanks.
Thank you, Jaakko, so much. Wow, it's really so many things are happening. It's great to see that you're having a lot of success and all the people it's attracting and they're getting involved. And if your biggest problem is the rabbits, I think that's a good problem to have as the biggest one. So wonderful. Really, thank you for your presentation. As we are running a little bit over time, we will move on to the final presentation, and then we'll have a bit of time for questions at the end. Though if anybody has questions, feel free to write in the chat, and maybe the speakers can also answer there. I see already that is happening a little bit, so feel free to do that. Oh, and I also saw that Evelina posted a little survey in the chat just for future events, so that we know what events to organize so that they're relevant to people. So please do fill in the questionnaire. It's only 5 short questions, multiple choice, so it doesn't take too long. Wonderful. So let's move on to our final presentation this morning. And I would like to welcome Helena Gallis, the Director of Partnerships and Innovation at, such a difficult name to pronounce, correct me if I'm wrong, Nabolagsager, Norway. Sorry for that. Please welcome Helena and on your presentation on urban gardens and composting in the city.
Hello, everybody. I am terrified about whether or not technology will be on my side. I just have a bad feeling. So I'm very curious of how this will go. Also because it's a big presentation with lots of heavy media files. Yes, I think you can see a full screen now, yes?
Yes, perfect, thank you.
Good. Nabolagshager is the name of the company. If you split it up into 3 words, it's easier. Nabo means neighbor. Nabolag is neighborhood, and hager is garden, so it actually means neighborhood gardens. I would like to share some of our experiences with compost-related projects, not just Nabolagshager, but also sort of our extended family of projects and partners. We call ourselves a think and do tank. It means that we do desk work, but you can often see us with dirt under our fingernails as well. So we're not, we're quite hands-on. We work with people, planet, and profit, you know, the typical blah, blah. This is what it means in practice, that we work with living labs and co-creation processes. We run pioneer projects. We work very similar to how you work in Kaunas, where we also try to document our projects through partnering with research institutes, with citizen science. We are a startup ourselves, and we also have an incubator for market gardens. So we also help other startups. And we work together with, on policy level, with the district, with the city, and with other, like the national scale as well. We also work a lot with, one of our main projects is called Oslo Living Lab. So a lot of our experiments are designed around this youth team, and they are the ones executing a lot of our experiments. And that way we design our projects so they also generate paid jobs for youth and teenagers. The first project I want to share with you is a kind of weird ongoing experiment of trying to close the loops within an office building. So this is the building where our offices are at. It's called Greenhouse. It used to be the main office of the National Agricultural Association. They moved out. The building is going to be torn down, and it's being temporarily used as like a startup community sort of place with about 60 different companies located there. And these are some of the experiments that we have been conducting over the last 3 years. There's an indoor microgreens farm in the basement. Their leftover or excess herbs are eaten by the chickens on the rooftop. There's a bar on the first floor. They sell botanical drinks, among other things. They're cocktails decorated with flowers from our rooftop. And we compost their coffee grounds. We have our offices on the third floor. We have an indoor bokashi system for our own food waste. We have a worm compost. And we also, I call it composting, but it's not really composting, but we do a lot of dissecting the building and reusing and upcycling material. So we've taken old shelving material and turned it into seating, for example. Not quite composting, but very related. On the 6th floor, there's an employee dining hall. We compost the coffee grounds from them. And also a lot of the people using the building take their leftovers up to the rooftop to the chickens. Which brings us to the rooftop up on the 7th floor, where we have several different types of compost. There's a cold compost for the plant waste. There's the chickens that are, compost eating machines that turn food waste into eggs and fantastic chicken poop that is wonderful for all the fertilizing needs of the rooftop. There's also a worm hotel that I will show you more about later. And of course, the end results, which is a large edible garden and a social space that the entire building benefits from. And that takes us, I'll tell you a little bit more about the rooftop garden. It's called Tak for maten. When we moved into the building, it looked like this. And then, which leads me to sort of linking the supply and the demand in the city for circular solutions. Because everywhere in the city where you garden, you will need soil and you will need nutrients and you will need compost. So where else should it come from than from the city itself? It just doesn't make any sense to import it from the countryside. And here comes the scary part. Will the video work? Let's cross our fingers. This is a small glimpse of what it looks like in summer. Yes, so that was, oh, I can't wait for summer. It feels like we've had the longest winter in history, doesn't it? With Corona. Yes. Up on the rooftop, we have had some pilots with biochar, which some of you may be familiar with already, which is, in a simple language, it's soil mixed with charcoal. And that is maybe one of the smartest soil solutions that are coming, especially because of its capacity to sequester carbon, so we can actually take carbon emissions out of the system and put it into the ground. We set up test beds for these, testing out different mixes of soil and charcoal, and also different sizes of charcoal. The plants grew really well in it, so well that they became a delight for the local snails that we had, unfortunately, have had quite some trouble with up on the rooftop. Yeah. The fourth project, I'm not only going to share with you the success stories. This is a fail-tastic project that I think we can learn a lot from. We tried to have a large-scale bokashi system, or not large-scale, but large-scale for a company, indoors in our office. So we used the youth team to develop this pilot, and we had great help from some master students from the local design and architecture school. The youth themselves are better at telling us what the project is about, so meet them.
This is where Alternative Lab works. Did I hear Alternative Lab? Can you please define what it is? I've got you. Alternative Lab is the program run by the youth from Greenland, Oslo. Together we find opportunities for circular programs to create a sustainable and inclusive city. We are the future of Greenland. Sis, tell them how we work.
Easy. We have divided the group into thinkers and builders. The thinkers is the brain of the group. They do everything from making a logo, a business plan, and even like all the tasks that the builders do is run by the thinkers. The builders do all the hard work. They do everything that is physical. They make everything from boxes to like have the compost in and everything. You can ask them anything about compost, bokashi, and food waste, they got you. Even though we are divided into groups, we still keep contact. Communication is key, and that's something we have learned through this program.
Yeah, so the youth worked together with these design students that did not have that much experience with bokashi as a method, but still we tried to set up a facility in our office where we repurposed the waste bins by adding a tap system, by adding ceiling. These were really big bins. And then we also partnered with a small juice producer that is working from one of the buildings next door that had a steady supply of food waste so that we could rapidly scale up. However, the main output of the project were flies. We had a terrible infestation of flies in our offices. It was just insane. Like, I mean, we tried to keep the bokashi in the bokashi room and the experiment room with the door closed, but it was just pretty much impossible. So I think the conclusion to that is that bokashi, large-scale bokashi inside of an office building, I think it's better to start small and slowly scale up as you see working, rather than jumping straight to a large row of 200-liter bins. Yeah, but it was an interesting experiment. We also have up on the rooftop, we have a worm hotel. And that is a collaboration with a Dutch company called Telekonferencijia, and it's part of a network that we've set up of worm hotels in our district of Oslo. And it's a great design by this Dutch company, where it's the compost bin itself is also kind of a rooftop garden. Here's a small video explaining that will take you on a small tour around a couple of different projects in our area, and you'll also meet my colleague Adam.
We wanted to work with Rowan here in Oslo and be part of the Worm Hotel network, because we feel like Rowan's work fits very well with the type of work we do. Building things that we need in cities that make cities greener, but also bring people together. We work with minority and immigrant youth here in Oslo, and they're going to manage these worm bins over time, and hopefully work with Rowan to figure out a way to make this profitable here in Oslo.
We opened a new cafe at this museum this year, and now when we are using the Worm Hotel, it's much better because we can use the waste to something instead of just put it to the trash can. We are working with the people who are living in the neighborhood, and we would like to have a project together with them.
We learn different things about plants, the soil, and how to make Grönland a better place, make it more green, and get the people more involved.
They try to make sure to be careful to stay away from, all the shit, all the plastic and all of that, you know what I mean? I feel a spark of fight there, you know what I mean? Which is very inspiring.
They use it as a place to meet. They sit on the benches. I can see that it contributes to the collectiveness of the neighborhood. Eating is okay. So my daughter, she wrote on one of the boxes, just eat. And hopefully that's inspiring people to just go and take something for the dinner to make it more spicy.
All the people who come here, they get connected with this place, with each other, with what we do, with the season, with the weather, the sun, everything. And that's why urban farming is important, not just to show where the food comes from, but to let it grow in many ways and ideas. And I love it.
Don't we all love it? That's why we're all sitting here. Let me see. Yes, the sixth project that I want to share with you is also from a cultural heritage site. It's Linderud Manor, which is in one of the suburbs of Oslo, where we're trying to build quality soil through all sorts of strategies. It's a manor from the 1700s. It's been a farm since the 1300s, so it's never been polluted by any industries or anything like that. But it's been unused. The farmland has been unused since the 1960s. Occasionally, it's been rented out to horses. That's the only activity that's been there. And as you can see, it's been overgrown with weeds. Not only has it been overgrown with weeds, it's also soil that's very rich in clay, and the drainage is poor, so it's been a giant mud pool all summer. So the first thing they had to do for this project was to get excavators and drain the field as good as they've been able to. There's all sorts of interesting recycling loops happening around this project. One of them is connecting to a local newspaper press where leftover paper rolls. The press doesn't use the last, I think is like 100 meters of every paper roll. So there's so much paper that goes to waste. So that's been the base layer. We've added wood chips from local tree surgeons and park maintenance companies, etc. And just built layer by layer with that. And also lots of horse manure from a local riding school. And that's good stuff because it's already mixed with straw and other organic material. And then of course, local muscle power. And again, we design our project so that we can hire mentors and youth to do a lot of the labor around it. And that way there's a social dimension and an economic impact that also adds on top of the environmental impact. And you have fun with the hay, which if you're a city kid, you haven't had that fun. Every country kid knows how much fun it is to be silly in the hay, but yeah, city kids need to explore that as well. So you can sort of see the land taking shape around you here. And then the youth have also been planting out plants throughout the season. The local primary school had a huge sunflower planting event. It's also the home of several small startups that are related to urban gardening. One example is Markblomst, which they grow flowers for flowers bouquets and for wedding bouquets and for decorations. That's one of the businesses. There's also a very interesting test bed by Gruten, which is a company that they produce mushrooms in some containers in the city of Oslo, and they sell to consumers and restaurants across the city. They have lots of leftover mycelium where they've harvested the mushrooms from. So they've been trying to see if that can be composted or if it can be reused as some sort of soil material. There's also one part of the field that hasn't been touched. That's the one that's closest to the highway that runs right past, which has been tentatively quite polluted. And that's being used as a research field for the Museum of Natural History because they're conducting lots of experiments across the city on increasing biodiversity by planting native meadow flowers. She might not look like it, but this lady, she's a rock star in Norway when it comes to biodiversity. She's just done so many amazing projects. It's also the home of a community-supported agriculture, a CSA farm. So the vegetables that you see in the front, they're all run and grown and eaten by a group, by like a member organization of a CSA. And then if you remember what you saw in the beginning, just an empty field filled with nothing but clay and all the different processes we've had throughout the year. I have a video that hopefully will open that will show you what it became during the year. And this is a glimpse from September last year, if it works.
Sorry, Helen. Unfortunately, we cannot see your video that you're showing. It's probably shared in a different way.
I had a feeling it wasn't going to work, all of it. But that's okay because I can share the link with you.
That's perfect. Thank you.
But it did look beautiful. And I think there's a really great connection between this project and your own fortress, because it's a shift in mentality from having a cultural heritage site as like a passive and protected site that should only be taken care of, into converting it into a community hub. So the nature of our sites are very different and the history is very different, but the logic behind turning it from an introvert historical site into an extrovert and future-oriented and community-oriented space is very similar. So it's really nice to see that kind of thinking happening many places. Seventh project is very similar to some of the experiences that the Estonians shared. We one of our colleagues ran a project of figuring out the truth about bioplastics. Can everything that's labeled compostable actually be composted? And if it says biodegradable, does it biodegrade? And what exactly is a bioplastic? Yeah. Because we're replacing the conventional petroleum-based plastics with them, with the illusion that we are solving a problem. So we're taking petroleum-based plastic that we do recycle properly, and we're replacing it with a product that we that is difficult to recycle. Yeah, basically it doesn't work. That's the short version. The long version is that we had a huge experiment set up for last year, and then COVID happened. And so it was decided to split it up into a decentralized multi-hub pilot where several families would get one compost bin each and do their own experiment with it. And then we would come and check it during the year. So here are some examples you can see that there are different types of bins, of compost bins, and different setups. And also importantly, there were different mixes in each box, so that some would have, like this one has horse manure in it. Some would shred the bioplastics first, some would not do that. And they would have different ratios of other organic matter in the mix to see what tentatively would work, because this is supposed to be, these are all warm compost, not worm, but warm, so that generate heat and trap heat on the inside. So they, in theory, according to the advertising, should be sufficient to biodegrade them. But this is some of the inputs from the citizen scientists that really the compost has the proper temperature, but it's not working the way it's supposed to work. And here's a small video. It's in Norwegian, but she's only talking for a minute. But all you compost lovers, I think you can figure out what she's talking about.
Nå legger jeg bioplastikk, som de kaller dette her. 20 cm lag oppå festmøkk. Det er ikke fullt lenger. Så noe har jo blitt kompostert, men det er ikke plasten. Det er sannsynligvis hestemøkka og flisen. Og det er jo noe greier som er muggent. De der tallerkenene har jo begynt å gå litt i oppløsning, men skjeer og gafler og glass og sånn har det ikke skjedd så mye med. Så jeg tror ikke at disse her greiene lar seg kompostere I en vanlig varmkompost. Det blir rett og slett ikke varmt nok. Plasten fremdeles plast.
I think it's amazing how similar the images look to the Estonian experiments, that the plastic forks were still plastic. And also the question that really came up several times during this project was that, yes, even if it disintegrates, does it become soil? Or are we just creating microplastic, but like bio-based microplastic? So yeah. Many more questions to be answered by science on these replacements to plastic. So I think in the meantime, skipping the single-use items is our best strategy. We have an online report in English. You can find it on our website. It's called the Action Project. And yeah, after all these examples, I've been going through them really fast since we've been a little bit behind schedule. I also wanted to share a really some really good news from just 2 weeks ago. The government launched the first ever national strategy on urban agriculture in Norway. And I think the most interesting part about it is that it's a collaboration between 5 ministries. So the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, they've been sort of pushing the process, and that makes a lot of sense. But they actually got several of the other ministries on board. So that means that beyond the activist level that we're all engaged in, more and more stakeholders on higher levels are understanding the multidimensional impact of urban agriculture and composting and all these solutions. That they can, they're good for our health, that we had so many wonderful examples of earlier. It's fantastic for the environmental impact. It's fantastic for school and of course, research institutes are involved in this. It's good for knowledge of where food comes from. It's great for creating meeting places and social connections, etc., etc. And the strategy specifically talks about composting on several topics. First, it mentions that there are several knowledge gaps in terms of composting, so that it's recognized as important, but there's not enough tools for policymakers to actively implement composting in strategies. They do mention that they're working on a couple of interesting guidelines. For example, there's a guideline being worked on for composting happening in restaurants. So there will be a national guideline for that coming soon from the food and safety authorities. So yeah, stuff is happening. I've talked a lot and I've talked fast, and I've actually wanted to invite you to join me to sow some seeds. Because I think that talk is cheap, but action is much more important. And on this photo, you have the most amazing tomatoes in the whole world. They're called Black Beauty, and they start out as green, and then they become purple, and then they're black and like black purple, like aubergines and eggplants, and then they slowly become red. And they're the sweetest, nicest, and like super firm tomatoes. So I have some extra seeds from last year, and I'm going to be sending some to Kaunas in the mail. So hopefully you will be able to plant some seeds of this, and you will have some seeds from Oslo growing in Kaunas. And I have also prepared some soil here, and some chili seeds that I should have sown a long time ago, but I just never got around to it. So if you have some seeds around by yourself, bring them out while I try to open. I need some scissors.
Yes, I'm also ready. And Evelyn, I think, also has her seeds prepared.
Yep. And if you don't have seeds, you can spend this time finding us on our website and finding us on Instagram and social media and writing down my email address. These seeds, they're from some chili, lemon drop chilies, not so strong, and they only 65% sprout, so I don't know. And I'm doing it late, so we'll see how this goes. At least a couple of them will work. Yes. So with these seeds being sown and my head full jam-packed of ideas and inspiration from all these fantastic examples that you've been sharing this morning, I think I've spoken enough. And I think it's time for all of us to let the ideas and inspiration sink and maybe open up the floor to some questions.
Yes, Elena, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I've sown my seed as well. hope it grows soon. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes.
What a lovely idea for the end of your presentation. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for sharing also all of the great projects and even the ones that didn't work out. I think it's important for everyone to know what the challenges are so that we don't make the same mistakes in our own projects. So I hope we can all collaborate with all the speakers and everyone who was here today. And yes, if there are any questions, I invite anyone who would like to ask directly, or if there were any in the chat, maybe Evelina can help me to see if there were any that were not answered yet.
Yes, we have quite a bit of a discussion happening on Facebook about composting. And I'll start with Ekaterina, who asks about which compost bins are best to use, and also worms. And she's also worrying about plastic contamination, which already was mentioned in the presentation, that we know that this does not compost. We should not try to do that, but to advise, practical advice of what is the best to use in the city environment. I'm not sure who this question could be. Would Annelie, if Annelie, are you with us still to answer this question? I'm not sure.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the questions.
Sorry. Yes, there's quite a bit of a discussion on Facebook, and there's a question about composting bins and also worms in the urban environment, which are the best to use. What would you recommend? And also, what is this? In Estonia and Lithuania, Natalie asked, do municipalities take household kitchen waste and use it for biogas? How is it removed from homes? Because in kitchen waste, it is used to make biogas. Then I wonder if this is actually better than composting when it comes to greenhouse gases. One other question.
Yeah, there is a lot of questions. So the first about worm compost bins, which is the best to use in the urban environment. That was the question, right?
Yes, I'll scroll down to composting worms. The best to use food leftover, which can be put in a small terrace. That's quite specific.
A small terrace. I showed one solution, which was waste fox in Estonia. Basically, there are many brands, and I will not suggest anything or anyone from that. I believe that you can also search in the Google. But the main thing about the solution for terraces is that if you want to compost around the year, it also means that you want to compost during the cool times, and it means that you need a preheated composter. Otherwise, it doesn't compost during the winter time. then it just stays there. So preheating is important, and the second one is that it's also turnable, that you can turn the compost in order to give him more oxygen to compost. And the third one is that you can add fermentation, which is speed up the composting process. So this is the main system how the terrace composting working. About vermicompost, I'm not the expert about vermicompost. I tried it for half of a year, but it wasn't very suitable solution at least for my flat. Because first it was quite big, and it needs how to say, it's not just like a thing which you put to the corner of the apartment and it stays there and you just add the food leftovers. I will take it more like a group of pets you have, and you have to take care of them. And we are living beings, and you also have to make sure that we are living well, we are fed well, and you're providing them a good environment. So this is really important about vermicompost. So you have to be sure that you are able to take care of living animals.
That's a really, really good point. And the other side of the question, maybe also, do you have any links possible in English, or I guess Google translates sometimes reasonably well? Could you share your website? I know you have quite a bit of information for people who would like to start composting themselves outside or in their homes. I think that would be very, very useful. And the second question was about the biogas. I'm not sure if we have Jūratė Žaltauskaitė with us anymore. I think she might have had to leave. But also I'm aware that in Finland, people are encouraged to, and composting is used for biogas making.
The biogas is also
compost or biogas.
The making biogas out of bio waste is also a good solution, especially if we need to tackle the energy challenge. It's we are looking for clean energy sources already for a long time, that we don't have to use the oil for that, and bio waste, wind, water, and everything. It's a good for clean energy and sun as well. And I believe that it depends on circumstances. It depends on city. So if there is a good infrastructure for producing the clean energy, and this is reasonable to produce out of bio waste, this is absolutely okay. And then of course all the city can provide bio waste in order to create the biogas, and in the end it's still compost as well. But at the same time, it doesn't replace composting, because we also need the soil, and we also need to enrich the soil with compost, and beside that, we still need, as a humankind, to be connected with the composting, as I also explained in the beginning of my lecture, that the composting is easy way to be connected with the environment, with the nature, and be happy. So I would say that there are pluses and minuses, and this is absolutely the decision of a community, but definitely can't replace composting.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we'll share the link for all this knowledge that you have on your website with the chat participants. We have a question from Laura. I guess it might be for Helen Gallis. How do you get biochar? Who is making it, or how it works? I think they saw it in your presentation there.
I am not the expert on biochar. My role is more about the social facilitation, so I don't have very good answers to that. Yeah.
Yes, we need to research more about this.
I'm sure there are better experts among all the fantastic people that you've gathered here today.
Would anyone like to pick up on that one? Biochar. Not quite. Laura will have to research this question, and also
I can share one interesting when we've been discussing the options, like how to do biochar and use that in the city, like where would the resource for that be? And we actually had a very nice dialogue with a Korean barbecue restaurant that go through a lot of char every day, and that's just waste for them now. So it has to be clean, burnt charcoal. That's as much as I know about it, and then there can be many sources of that within the city. Apparently, you can also use like the normal barbecue charcoal, even if you usually put the lighting fluid on it, which is toxic, but that all of that is burnt away during the barbecue process. So maybe it's a great way to channel all your barbecue parties that will happen this summer and use the waste for soil improvement.
Yes, local resources are always the best, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I think definitely coming back to the infrastructure and what is possible, and also that composting is also a resource it's a fertilizer for the urban gardens, which is very, very relevant for all of us who grow in the city or somewhere else, grow food. I'm looking into any more questions on Facebook that we could address. But we'll definitely share I saw Ruta answered the question about work maybe outside of the city center and bringing ideas of bringing urban gardens to the rest of Kaunas. That would be very much exciting. Yeah, I think that would be end of the questions. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. I also had a question for Helen about the social involvement of you mentioned that a lot of young people are getting involved. So how are you reaching out to them? How are you getting them involved in all of the projects?
We're teaming up with local high schools. So most of our projects are focused on 2 different sites, and both of them happen to be high schools where you have a lot of the students have socio-economical, come from hardship backgrounds. But yeah, so providing jobs and framing the projects as youth job programs is one way of doing it. And we do it because we genuinely care about what are the green jobs of the future for the section of the population that does not have a master's degree. I think it's extremely important because every time we talk about green jobs, it's always illustrated by a solar energy engineer, for example, or, I'm sure everyone who's been speaking today has at least 1 master's degree. But what happens to the 2/3 of the population that doesn't have university and higher educations, and what are the green jobs of the future for them? How will we employ people in capturing carbon, in closing the loops, in generating these services, even like creating nice social spaces is one of these green jobs of the future. We've set up, I didn't mention it now, but we've also set up a research team of youth that do a lot of the mapping so that they also can get an idea of what does one become when one goes to university. Well, you can work with this kind of stuff, for example. So yeah, exploring what are the green jobs of the future. We have no idea how we're going to create millions of green new jobs over the next decade or two. And the sector where we are all working, I think has a fantastic potential of generating all sorts of quite exciting jobs, even not just jobs, but really nice ones and meaningful ones.
Yes, wonderful. Really, I see that too. There's so much opportunity, and you're taking the first steps. So, thank you. And it's something really for us to look up to and get inspiration from, to then develop ones locally here or work internationally and collaborate. If there are no more questions, then I guess we can be about wrapping up. I don't know if we still want to show that there was a video for opportunities from the Nordic Council. Evelina, are we still showing that? Oh, I can't hear you.
I think we might be able to share it after we close. So in the process, when everybody's checking out. So where I want to thank again the organization why this forum was possible. So that is Nordic Council of Ministers of Office in Lithuania, and all the partners and Kaunas Sporters Park and Vytautas Magnus University, and all the speakers who took their time to speak with us, tell us and inspire us with their work and their ideas today. And what is really for me motivating and sort of psyching up for another season of growing and of making change in our own localities that are very, very different, is the inspiration from our all around Europe, from Finland and Estonia and Norway, and just knowing that we're all working towards a common goal, and all these steps really count. And it's just inspiring to see that there's such a big community of people who really care, who really work very, very hard, and innovate in many different ways all around Europe. So thank you very much for that. And also more information, and I think talking about composting will not finish here. We'll try to organize more events on this topic, so composting in the city, and please watch out Shelini Project website and also Facebook page, and as soon as we know the dates, we'll post the events there, as this just got the most questions, I think, today from participants. And yes, Alus, if we could have the video. Thank you very much. And we'll share, the video will stay online on Facebook, and we'll later on share it maybe on YouTube as well. So thank you very much. Have a lovely day. It's very sunny here in Lithuania, and have a beautiful spring to grow new things that we plant today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone participating, all the speakers, Evelina for organizing such a great event, all of the project partners. And yeah, let's connect. The journey doesn't end here. Let's connect and see what the future holds for these topics and this work. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon.
Robertas Povilaitis, esu vaikų linijos vadovas, viešoji įstaiga vaikų linija vadovas. Nuo 97 vaikų linija darbuojasi. Svarbiausia tai yra užtikrinti emocinę paramą telefonu ir internetu. Tai yra 12 valandų per dieną, kiekvieną dieną telefonu, ir tada yra darbo dienomis kokias 5 valandas, reiškia, chatas. Su biuru mes taip jau daug metų taip bendraujam, bendradarbiaujam ir tikrai tokie kolegiški yra labai santykiai. Dar atsimenu irgi, kai mus pakvietė važiuoti į Stokholmą, į konferenciją apie vaiko teisės, bandėm suprasti, kaip pas juos tose mokyklose, kaip su tom patyčiom ten dirbama, kokia teisinė bazė ir panašiai. Tai va tokios bandymas tokios mokytis patirties. Tai aš galvodavau, kai žiūrėdavau į Lietuvos kažkokius tos duomenis, įsivaizduokit, aplinkui labai daug yra, reiškia, tokio elgesio ir tada galvoju, kažkaip, nepastebi, kad gal čia kažkas netvarkoja. Tai vienas dalykas yra, kad, pavyzdžiui, jeigu paimtume Švediją, tai ir pažiūrėtume į tarptautinių tyrimų rezultatus, kuriuose yra nagrinėjama, kiek tų, pavyzdžiui, patyčių vaikų patiriančių yra, kiek besityčiojančių yra vaikų, tai Švedija atsiduria tarp tų šalių, kur to reiškinio yra mažiausiai. Šiaurės ministrų tarybos biuras Lietuvoje turi įvairių programų, kuriomis skatina tas patirties keitimasi, sveikti tom visuomenėm, kurios truputį turi daugiau tokio visgi, tos visokių smurto, agresijos rodiklių, jų yra per daug, bet tas bendravimas, jisai, man atrodo, tokią sveiką įtaką daro.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and until next time to everyone.